Hi, good evening, and welcome to the ZP Food Sense weekly webinar. So we like to do this weekly webinar where we answer questions that have come in during the week. So with that said, let me go forward and be nice and efficient with your time. So today's the 20th of October 2024, and we've had a few questions this week. Some of them I've had to push off to next week, but that'll become apparent because I'm going to do some, let's say, deeper scientific work. But that said, let me jump into this week. So don't forget, we do personal online training. So if you are a user of the ZP Food Sense Generation 4, now I must admit, I just jump straight into these things and barely say anything these days because I assume that everyone knows what it is. But this is the ZP Food Sense Generation 4. We use it to test a lot of different chili-based products around, actually. So actually, I won't say too much because I realize we've got a live deeper dive webinar on next week, in fact. So there's no need for me to go on too much about that. This is the Food Sence Generation 4, and it's generally used to test the hotness of chilies and chili products. In fact, I've got a small batch of chili, bird's eye chili peppers just next door, so that's something I'm working on this week. Anyway, personal online training, weekly webinars. Welcome to the weekly webinar, and monthly webinars. So that's why I sort of stopped myself going on too much on the Food Sence Generation 4. There's a monthly webinar this week on the 26th of September. Sorry, not the 26th of September. That's really bad. I realize that says that, but it's actually on the 24th of October. So my apologies for that. So, and if you see this link, just know that it will take you to, even if it's gone past the 24th of October, there'll be another webinar and it'll take you to that one. All right, so question number one. So somebody's been watching our YouTube videos. They've noticed that Tabasco sauce that we test, on the Generation 3, they noticed that we measured at 2,785, and on the Generation 4, it was 4,214. There's not a difference between the two instruments. It's actually the Tabasco sauce batches that I think the McKinley company say that they ship. I've seen them say they ship between 2,500 and 5,000 Scoville heat units. So I think it can actually be maybe 2,000 to 5,500. So the range may be a bit more. So the quick answer is the machines are not different. The batches are different. And then they have another question here, which is it different to the variations in the Tabasco samples? Well, that's my opinion, and I'll try and illustrate that a bit more. Are they objective and comparable to values from third-party labs? And I'll give you some results from third-party labs. They are objective. I think with objectivity, did you use the word objective? Oh yeah, you did use the word objective. Yeah, they're much more objective actually than I would suggest sending samples out for third-party labs. In third-party labs, you don't see the sample prep, you don't see the sample run, you don't see when the system was last calibrated, you don't see what's called the chromatogram, you don't see the conversion of that chromatogram into capsaicin concentrations and dihydrocapsaicin concentrations, and you don't then see the final part, which is quite straightforward, into Scoville heat units. So it's much more objective and transparent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick, first of all, check my notes, what I've written here. I'll do a quick demonstration now. I'm actually going to test a Tabasco sauce. So let me grab a clean sensor. I did prepare a sample. It is done in what we call 1 in 10. This dilution, conversation is much easier with the Food Sense Generation 4. You will see more videos online where actually we show that if we get the concentration of the sample preparation wrong, it's no big deal because we can send, that's okay, I'll just call it that. We can send the result, if we get it wrong, the app will tell you is what I meant to say. So I'll talk about concentration in a minute, so let me just put this sample on there quick. This is 50 microliters, on it goes. This is this particular Tabasco sauce, here we go. And this is on the Generation 4 device. Even if you've seen videos before, you'll suddenly notice that the software has changed a bit these days. This is not a product that this is a product that's very active. We are active on this device. We're big users of this device. We've got plenty of end users out there that are using this device. So the software, you may have noticed, even if you've watched some like old videos of ours, is certainly changed quite a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to a different screen on my computer. I just want to show you that. Let me just I'm just trying to figure out, there we go. I'm just trying to figure out where to share. So I get a result on the phone. So this has come back at 3,330 Scoville heat units. I'm just going to change my screens slightly so you can see that in a bit more clarity. So 3,330 Scoville heat units. You did use the word objective, and I'm gonna use the word objective back at you now, because I think this is extremely objective. So everything gets saved to the cloud, and when I go up to that cloud, I will find my device. So I find my device. It's objective in terms of I'll actually be able to see the raw signal. But also, sorry, I should have said that every time a test is run, it is automatically saved to the cloud. So this is where we start getting objective. If you want to understand the science of the Food Sence Generation 4, then please come to the monthly demos. But we have a fingerprint for capsaicin. This is objective. Peak 1 for capsaicin, peak 2 for capsaicin, peak 3 for capsaicin. They were all explained in the monthly webinars. Now here, it's rounded, on the app it's rounded to the nearest 10, so it reported at 3,330 Scoville heat units. On the website, we actually leave it as sort of, it's ridiculous, 3 significant figures, but that's, it's just silly. But, we got it there, let's say. So why is this objective? This is objective because we have the raw signal. Now, I understand that you just watching this webinar now was just, well, how do I know that's objective? Well, I can tell you, and you can be shown that this is capsaicin. It's not by accident. You can also see how strong this signal is, and you can see that actually there's a little dot here. This is our software analyzing that signal and turning that signal into Scoville heat units. So not only do you get to get the result, you also get the raw signal. And so if you run something that's 7,000 Scoville heat units, it will be twice as high as this, for example. So you will have visibility on where these numbers are coming from. Let me ask you a question. If you sent a sample out to a third-party HPLC lab, how much would it cost? How long would it take? How much visibility would you have on that science? You literally just saw me take a sample, run a sample, get a result in real time on that sample. That result go to the cloud, and in fact, when you look at the cloud, it's actually got sample name, date and time, who did it, raw signal, other data on it. And this is the really cool bit. If you're very interested in doing things like quality control, so I've got all sorts of Tabasco sauces that I've been running up here. I'm just picking these randomly, by the way. I'm not sort of giving them any particular, there may be something that's really erroneous up here, but I just picked some Tabasco sauce samples, and I'm just going to do a combine reports data, compare selected. So what it's now doing is it's actually grabbing all of those results, and I can see that, I've got, don't worry about this one down here, this 500 here, but I can see some results that I've got for various Tabasco sauces. I know what I did here, but these ones, so various Tabasco sauce results. I've got one here at 3,681, one here at 4,285, here one at 3,331, which is probably the one I just ran, in fact. So if you see some different results on different machines but on different dates, it's the Tabasco sauces that are variable. And I've got some more slides for you, actually, because you also did ask a slightly different question, which was comparing against HPLC. So when we first launched Food Sence Generation 4, I was very keen to make sure that everyone understood that, we had validated this against HPLC. And then with time, I realized that, HPLC as a method is a really good, strong analytical method. HPLC applied into the food industry is not necessarily, it's a very low margin industry where people are not willing to pay high prices for test. This is why the Food Sence Generation 4 exists, because in fact, it's relatively low cost, it's fairly fast to do, the sample prep is easy, and you get a result. And it works well in the food industry, because in fact, margins are low. If a test costs in the US and Europe, a test for capsaicin can cost like $100, €100. In China, or maybe in India, that can come down to something like €25. But these are all still quite high prices for the food industry. So I was very keen always to show comparison with HPLC. But actually, I've almost, we did it for ourselves. But what I've discovered is we've worked with a number of clients over the years, in fact. And so this is a comparison between HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography done by a third party lab, and the Food Sence Generation 4. And we got a good correlation. So, when we and they correlate well. This is lab number 1. Now let's do lab number 2. Lab number 2 is also be compared between Food Generation 4 and this lab. So different labs. So HPLC result, Food Sence Generation 4 result, strong correlation. This is not my data. This is my client's data. But what I'm realizing is that if I now compare those two labs to one another, so now I'm going to do comparing those two labs to one another. If those two labs were comparable, HPLC versus HPLC, I would get this green line. But in fact, the real correlation is this red line. So when people say to us, oh, how do you compare against HPLC? I say, excellent. But what I've realized is HPLC labs do not compare well against one another. And it's not a criticism of HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography. It's not even a criticism of the labs. But people can't afford to do the amount of testing that they otherwise need to do. And those testing is done on quite low margins, because in fact the food industry has quite low margins. So HPLC is essentially like trying to crack a nut with a hammer. It's too much of a powerful, high cost instrument that can't be run to the standards that people would like to do it, because the margins in the industry are too low. And if the HPLC was perfect and low cost, there wouldn't be room for Food Sence Generation 4. In fact, there is room for Food Sence Generation 4. Why is that? Because it's small. So it's, here I am sitting at home, and I've got it, I can fit in the palm of my hand, no sweat. I run it off my phone, no sweat, and it's quite quickly to do. So it is definitely small. So sorry, but it's super easy to use as well. HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, people don't own it because it's it's $50,000 instrument at least. I'm underestimating there. You've got to own all those organic chemicals. You don't get Scoville heat unit off an HPLC instrument. You do not get Scoville heat units off an HPLC instrument. You get a chromatogram off an HPLC instrument, which you then have to compare against a calibration routine. And you, as the end user, don't know when that machine was last calibrated for capsaicin and dihydrocapsaicin. This is fast. I think, at least the test you saw me do it, is like 30 seconds or something. And it's cloud enabled. So I was able to run it. It got saved in the cloud. My name got saved in the cloud. The date got saved in the cloud. The time got saved in the cloud. And the raw signal got saved in the cloud. That's really important, because that's your kind of, evidence that, it's not just a number on a certificate. You get a certificate of analysis, it's just a number. That's no evidence there of what that number is really truthful. And in fact, the more we work in the food industry, in fact, numbers are given for products, and you actually find out that, there's not necessarily a certificate of analysis. It actually might be just an email with a value in it. Okay. Well, I'm sure the test was still done. But then you also find out that, that was an old batch. And in fact, with a natural product, Tabasco has been part of that discussion today. This ships with quite a wide margin, that they say, I think officially 2,500 to 5,000 Scoville heat units. I think it may be more like 2,000 to 5,500. It's no criticism of the McKinney company, because they can't control the way people store this material, and so the capsaicin can oxidize and decrease. So if you do have any questions of ZP and Food Sence Generation 4, don't reach out to us. I think there's going to be a bit more of a deeper dive onto chilies next week, so hopefully you will join us. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks very much.